The fourth of our podcast series on this year's book, The Visitation Parish, A Pilgrimage to Eternity. This is season 3 of our parish podcast, Vis on Main. Today's unedited episode will focus on France, food, and faith, topics that Tim Egan, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist for the New York Times, writes about in his book. Joining me today are Megan and Emmanuel Langlade, visitation parishioners, parents, and owners of the French Bistro, Aixois. And I'm Lorraine Gordon, a member of the Visitation Faith Formation team. Well, first of all, I want to thank both Megan and Emmanuel for being here. I know you have very busy schedules, but we're delighted that you're speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Nice to be here.
Good. I have to confess that one of the many reasons we chose this book as a team was that Tim so vividly describes the simple pleasures of eating native foods and relishing them in the company of others. And there's so many scenes as he travels specifically through France where he's eating soups and stews with baguettes and roasted chicken with spring vegetables, and there are some really well-drawn highlights where he has breakfast of cheese and berries and pastries served in an inner courtyard of a former Jesuit house in Arras, and his stroll in Lyon reveals these fresh-cut rabbit loins in the charcuterie and an artful spread of strawberry tarts and chocolate eclairs at the patisserie. So clearly all these mouth-watering details only serve to emphasize how much the French cherish and prioritize preparation and quality in the meals they eat. So Emmanuel, I want to ask you, to what extent did your family share in this French insistence on taking pains to create such enviable meals, and did that play an important role in the profession you chose?
Well, definitely. I mean, my mother, she's a great cook. You know, the whole family loves food and good wine and good company and everything. So, for sure, my mother was the chef of the house, with the food going to the market early in the morning, and you know, she had an idea of what to do for all these people to feed my brother and my dad. So going to the market, getting the food fresh, baguettes, like you said, all kind of stuff, cheese and everything else, vegetables, and it was a long process, all day process to be ready for the evening for all these hungry men and boy at a time. Yeah. So definitely, and then you know, you come home, it smells good. You're hungry because you know the school lunch is not always, you know, the kind of lunch that you want to eat.
Even in France?
Even in France, but you do have to eat because you're hungry. So
yeah,
you know,
right.
you just do it. So it was definitely you know, a joy of going home at night and then one afternoon and smelling the food and the dinner that it was going to come, you know, at the table, and of course, you know, the whole family sit together and enjoy the food that the mother have created the entire day. So yeah, I mean, I was definitely had some influence with my decision of going to this business, become a chef and open a restaurant and feeding, you know, friends and families and, you know, customers and everything. So
were you kind of at your mother's elbow watching?
I was,
this?
yes. So I always enjoy watching her doing it, and I was kind of helping her.
So you were a prep chef?
I was a prep chef, yes. She was not always, you know, okay with the way I was doing it, but she was kind of guiding me with the right thing to do. And I was like, oh, you don't need to do like this. You can do it this way, you know. But no, I definitely took some of her, you know, skills. Definitely.
Were there any dishes in particular that you liked, that you enjoyed with the family?
Oh, I mean, there's so many dishes that we did. Of course, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you love steak frites, right?
Yes.
Who does not? Vegetables, you don't really eat vegetables, but, you know, parents said, no, you do have to eat your vegetables. But I remember mainly she was doing tripe, which is a very kind of a strong stew, and it will smell in the entire house. and you know, tripe doesn't really smell that great when it's cooked, but when you eat it, it's definitely much better. But then, you know, she was doing some other stew, and then it's just like, oh my God, it just smells so good. Yeah.
So I'm assuming tripe does not appear on your menus.
No, it's not. No, no, it's not. No, definitely
Okay.
not.
All right. Well, one thing I noticed as I was reading the book, there's kind of a shift that occurs.
As you can, and then, you know, either way you put on the table for your family or your friend, or you send it to your customers and eat. You know, you just kind of want to see their reaction if they like it. And, you know, if everybody enjoyed the meal, then you're very satisfied with what you have done. And, you know, you just see the smile of the people eating food that they enjoy, that you have prepared. So it's definitely a reward and, you know, joy of, you know, accomplishment.
In my experiences, eating in France, sometimes the chef will actually come out and sit down. Are either of you able to do that? Or are you just so preoccupied in the kitchen that?
No, I mean, when I'm in the kitchen, I don't really have time to go out to the table and talk to customers. If I'm in the kitchen and I'm done and everything, you know, it's fine. Then I, you know, I go in the dining room. You know, I'm not the type of person who likes to just, you know, go to the table and talk to everybody. I kind of like people to be left alone and enjoy. And then if I recognize friends, obviously I'd like to go say hi to friends and ask them how everything was. And sometimes, you know, they'll ask me to sit down, have a glass of wine with us. So of course, I'm not going to refuse that. You know, it's great, especially after you know, a day of work. So. Yeah.
Megan, I was going to say, Megan, you.
Well, I see it from a different point of view because he works so hard, but I so often see we have an open window in our kitchen, and if he's cooking, people always want to come and share their experience with him. So I think he's a humble chef. He always says to me, "I'm not a chef. I'm just a simple cook," but not true necessarily. It's a wonderful chef, and everyone wants to come share their experience at the window and say, "Oh, our meal was just fantastic." Or I see people come and they say, "You know, when I was traveling in France in this particular city," they just want to share their experience because it reminds them so much of maybe their travels. And, you know, I mean, I think obviously being with people that you love, friends, family, and eating together, food is life. And so in a way you're nourishing people, and that's just pretty inspiring thing. And I think I see people give that to him through the window, or he does walk around, and after, you know, maybe he comes back out and loves to, and people just love to talk to the chef always because they're so happy.
It must be rewarding though to see so many people returning and being just sort of loyal customers that, you know, you can just look up and smile or wave. Right. And know there's a connection there because this is the community that you serve and you share with, and if you're lucky and you have the time, you can have a glass of wine.
Well, and we're lucky that it's an all-day affair, so it's from morning to evening. So we see, I mean, it is a real community. I think we've seen people come their whole lives. We've seen people get married. We've seen families formed. We've seen, you know, all this coming together at our one place, which I think is really rewarding over the 20 years. So many people day after day, and so we get to know their lives and their stories.
Indeed.
That's great. That's great. Well, I'm going to shift here to another topic that Tim brings up quite often while visiting France, and that's Catholicism. And I've mentioned this town before in previous episodes, but Tim visits this little town called Saint-Omer, and he is so happy to find this collection of medieval manuscripts. And he speaks to the director who oversees the manuscripts, and the director acknowledges that the students in the school next door have absolutely no idea of their significance because they date back to a time that is irrelevant to them. And And, you know, sort of confirming for Tim a theme that he's concerned about, which is the waning relevance of religion, and in this case, to the young French. But then the director adds this interesting comment. But look around France. Our holidays are still tied to religion. The names of our cities, our streets, all come from religion. So a couple of questions here. How important was Catholicism in your upbringing in France, Emmanuel? And would you like to share with us your thoughts on what some might perceive as a kind of paradoxical relationship between the French and the Catholic Church?
So I grew up Catholic, was baptized when I was a baby, basically. I have some pictures. It's pretty cool. So my life was, you get born, you get baptized, you go to a Catholic school, you do all, communions and stuff like that. That needs to be done. And on Sunday, you go to church with your parents. And of course, when you're a kid, you don't really want to go to church. You just want to go play, right? But no, you dress up, you go to church, your parents meet other friends, and you tend to the church ceremony and everything. And what I remember when I was a kid is, of course, my two brothers, we didn't want to be in church. We wanted to, go play outside because it was a beautiful day and everything on Sunday. And I remember a few times actually, the parents, especially the father, will go with his friend to the bar next to the church. And they would just, talk and having fun and drink wine, whatever they were drinking. And then the mother takes the three kids and go to church and have to go to the whole scene. And as I was a young kid, going through the ceremony and everything, listening to the priest, it was kind of interesting. Because most of the time, I could barely hear what he was saying. And the singing was not always the right, tone. Not like at Visitation with a beautiful choir that we have. But no, it was that's what you do. You go to your life is basically they give you a base by baptize the young kid, baby, and then you've been raised with the Catholicism, but it's not as strong as I have seen in the United States. Actually, it's pretty laxist with that kind of education. Most of the time, after church, the priest is invited to one of the family and everything. And in France, they like to eat and drink, obviously. And most of the time, the priest will go back home and he was pretty drunk. And we always laugh about it. It was kind of the joke of the town. The priest will go after the mass and they go to a place and they will drink and we'll have a good time. And you talk about politics and everything, Catholicism, and lots of food and drinking involved, and that's what I remember most of my childhood. After when I became an adult and I started being on my own, no, I was not really involved. It always was in me. Always thought about it, but I was not really involved. It changed when I came to United States, to this country, and especially when I established myself in Kansas City. And then very close to Visitation, we start meeting, lots of our friends who who are part of the Visitation parish, and they invited us. And then, by coming to Visitation and seeing how I was proceed in the United States, it felt actually very peaceful and relaxing for me, and I enjoyed the message that the our Father does. So I was always kind of a focus, but also I wanted to give my kids a base, something to start with, which was become baptized, and then to follow later on, and after that it's just them to decide.
It sounds like when you're comparing the experience of church, now granted you were a child who was itching to go out and play soccer or whatever, football, that experience of being in a church, going through the liturgy, was not something you connected with. When you came to visitation, it seems like what you're saying is that was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
That it was more, you were more engaged, you were more inspired,
Right.
and that led you to this kind of shift of not just being kind of culturally Catholic because you were French and came from a French, family, but you took it more seriously. It was something that you felt more connected to,
Right.
because there were rewards there that did not perhaps occur when you were a child or in your family.
Correct.
Yeah.
The fact that how you have a family, you have kids and everything, so now you just not think about yourself only, but you think about your family, protecting your family, do the right thing for your family. So definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, that brings up the next question I have, which is, in the book, Tim mentions on more than one occasion his sort of regret for not having, or not insisting that his son and daughter be raised in his faith. I mean, he was, came from a very devout Catholic family. He himself is sort of in a position where he's sort of lapsed but listening. But the thing that frustrates him is that when he speaks to his children, he considers them religiously illiterate. That they don't get it. They don't get those kind of connections or allusions to things. So I wanted to ask both of you why it was important for you to raise your children. And I believe you have 4.
5.
5, okay. Olivier, Felix, Lily, Charlotte, in the Catholic faith. Why was that a priority for you?
Well, I wasn't raised Catholic, although my dad's side of the family are from Ireland and they're very Catholic. So I used to go spend summers with them in California, and they would take me to Mass, and I always felt like I wasn't part of the club. And I always sort of wanted that ritual, and I liked all of that sort of the way that community was. Mm-hmm. But my mother was spiritual, but she was just not religious in any way. We didn't go to church. So I had a very opposite upbringing than him, actually. And I think I've asked him a lot about that, and I think, in France, people sort of do the ritual, but they don't, a lot of them sort of fall away. It's just sort of like the social thing to do. But, so as we started to have children, we talked about it all the time, but we weren't in sort of a community yet, and things were so busy. But I think I wanted to do that. I mean, he always said, we need to get the kids baptized. And I said, well, you're the Catholic. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And then it just so happened one of our sons got started going to school in Nativity in 3rd grade. And so we lived in this area, but, we just it started to enter more in. It started seeping in that this would be an important part of raising these kids. And since he had that background too, finally it just all fell into place, really. I think, our house had the ghost of Stella McRae saying, this is what you do. So when we moved into that house, it even felt more like I could feel her there.
Were there already crucifixes on the wall? So is that what you're saying?
Etched into the plaster, right?
Okay.
No, so it all sort of fell into place. But then I think, you want the kids to have that foundation before they don't want it.
Right,
Yeah.
And
so they started going to Catholic schools. And
Okay, all right. Well, we're kind of shifting again in our kind of focus. Tim writes about a journey that for him is physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. And Emmanuel, I think you also have undergone obviously a journey that required pretty significant changes in your life. Could you share with us, and at least how, for example, this journey, if not in a literal way, maybe a figurative way, sort of made you feel like you were a pilgrim as you moved from France to the United States?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, coming from a country to another country, and especially when there is a different language, it definitely is going to, have some issues and some challenging in your life. So, when I came to United States, I was very excited. A new life, a new adventure and everything. But yeah, the language is not always was not really fluent in the language. So you do run into a lot of challenging obstacle that you have to pass, over the weeks, months, and years. Even still now, a lot of people sometimes don't understand me when I speak English, and it's very frustrating.
That's not the case right now.
Thank you. But the way helped me, the way I proceed all that is, you do have faith that you're gonna make it. You have faith that there is good people. So you try to do your best and to acclimate yourself with your surrounding, and by starting to learn the language the fastest you can, so you can be part of the conversation that people have, or you can be listen when you start talking, because when you don't speak really the language, nobody really wants to listen to you, or it's very difficult to express yourself, and you get very frustrated sometimes, and it's also very tiring because you try to really understand, and it's hard. So your brain constantly works, but the way you go through all this is by having a faith, and you're gonna make it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. You just have to keep trusting yourself and trusting people, and go on with what is your objective here? What's your journey is going to be, and just keep going. Don't think too much. Just
Well, obviously, you also came with a talent that it's not like you were going to, be in a courtroom where you had to argue a case.
No.
You were in a situation where everything was tangible.
Right.
And so that probably made it a little easier, right?
Yeah, you do have to prove yourself. It's not because you come from a country where you've been cooking for many years. You come to United States, and everybody's going to say, "Oh yeah, sure, no problem." No, it doesn't work that way. You still have to prove yourself and work hard to make it, and people have to trust you, and you have to trust people.
Yeah. Megan, you want to add anything?
Well, I think watching him make this journey, because when I met him, I had a minor in French, so I could understand French, but I was pretty unsure of myself speaking it. Still am. But when I first met him, he didn't speak much English at all in Austin, Texas, and so it's easy to come also and get a job as a cook in a kitchen. But that's not what his vision was. His vision was to own a business. So I think to be able to do that and jump over all of those obstacles and prove yourself to be opening a business is amazing, even if you're in the country that you were born in.
Sure.
So to come to a whole new one and do that, I think, the land of opportunity is always in everyone's mind who's from other countries. And it is in a lot of ways, because he always said, I was going to marry a Frenchman and move to France. What happened? I'm in Kansas City. And he said, but you can't open a business as easily in France. It's much harder. So I think, but to have him have that vision and do it and be successful is a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, great. Well, I've asked this question of everyone I've interviewed because we sort of thought this was an important kind of way to wrap up the interview, and that's to talk about COVID and the pandemic and how in many ways it sort of resembled, a trek traveling through unfamiliar terrain. It's kind of a pilgrimage in ways. And Tim Egan certainly details the challenges that he faces as he moves through his pilgrimage. Some of them, were physical and they tested his stamina. Some of them were emotional and they, opened up vulnerabilities in him. So, and the way he would sort of handle that is the way he found comfort and solace was sometimes he would go into a church or he would go to a monastery or he would take a walk in nature, okay, to sort of deal with the strangeness and the anxiety that he might be feeling. So I wanted to ask both of you, what have been the challenges for you during these last 12 months? And what have been the places or moments of either refuge or solace or comfort that you've experienced?
Well, I could say, seeing him have a dream, have it come to fruition, and then see it maybe all come crashing down, it was a challenge. We were in Mexico last year when the restaurant closed down, when they closed the restaurant, so he came back, and so to see that sort of it's horrible, but I think we've all learned a lot through these last 12 months, and there's been some positives in ways that you do things, you learn. Everything is a learning experience, but for me, nature, the ocean always brings me back and makes you say everything's a miracle. So, and we've made it this far, but he probably has a more concrete.
Well, the ocean takes a while for, given that you live in the Midwest.
Yeah, well, I just went to one.
I know.
But yeah, no, anything in nature, really. You can go out and look at a tree just to see birds flying, to see the tulip tree starting to bloom. But all of those things along the way, to me, bring comfort, knowing that everything keeps going forward.
Yeah.
You don't go backwards, you keep going forwards.
Yes, definitely a challenge. No doubt about that. How are you going to pay your bills if the restaurant's going to close? How are you going to be able to assist your family and everything? So the way I was able to proceed all that is, I had a wonderful family, obviously, looking at them every day and trying to figure out a way to keep going and reassuring everybody. Friends. I have a lot of friends around me, customers who comes and they were trying to support me and comfort you and saying everything's gonna be fine, man. You gotta keep the faith. Keep working as hard as you do. You're doing a great job. Everything's gonna go back to normal. So definitely helps. Yeah.
Right. Right.
And I like to be on my own sometime and kind of retrieve myself. And either way, if I'm outside, looking at the tree like we're talking about, and or take a walk or listen to music and that kind of stuff, definitely helps to proceed the whole situation here with the COVID. And but mainly it's friends and trying to reassure you that everything's going to be fine, and trying to keep the faith. There is something is good going to happen. That kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, clearly you have a good support group, both at home and friends, and also customers who would not stop coming.
No doubt.
Yeah, great.
Customers cross the line of friends. There's many.
Right.
Yeah, they were so supportive.
Oh my
Customers
God,
were so supportive. Even at the beginning, just doing takeout, and people were coming and saying thank you. He was in there every day, just him and our son. 2 of our sons working, doing the takeout. So I think people saw that. They saw the effort he put into keeping it going and feeding people, really. That was also like, people don't have they can't go to the grocery store, they can't,
True. Any final thing you want to say, Emmanuel?
Was a pleasant interview. Thank you very much
Oh,
for
well,
having
glad.
me
Okay.
and
good.
my wife. And yeah.
Okay. Well, we've come to the conclusion of our 4th episode on A Pilgrimage to Eternity, and we hope you who are listening have had the opportunity to listen to the preceding 3 episodes. Megan et Emmanuel, je tiens à vous remercier encore une fois de vous joindre à nous dans cette conversation aujourd'hui et de partager avec nous vos expériences. I want not only to thank the Langlades, but also members of the Faith Formation team who have lent their support, and especially today, Sandy McCrae. And a special thanks to Megan Brodowski, who has made these 4 episodes accessible to everyone on YouTube. The team would love your feedback on this and other episodes, so please feel free to leave a comment. Thank you.